The year is 2075. Their fertility rate is about to hit zero. The final baby has been born. Humanity has no ability to give birth or conceive a child ever again. The world has spun into complete chaos. This is how the human species ends. For our film-loving listeners, you might have realized what I just said sounded incredibly similar to the setting of the 2009 movie Children of Men, set in a dystopian future where humans are no longer fertile. This is obviously a science fiction film, but what if I told you a significant portion of the Donald Trump administration and influential right-wing figures believed, often citing a decrease in testosterone and sperm counts, that that's exactly what our future entails unless we change course? My name is June Sternbach.
My name is Josh Borman.
This is Ill Conceived, a podcast about natalism. So you've been traveling across the world. You've been
Yes.
seeing sites. Have you looked at the news recently? You see what's going on in the world these days.
Can you be a bit more specific?
See, that's the thing is I feel like we're 2 months into 2026 and there have been like the worst news stories of all time week after week after week.
Yeah.
But no, just the war in Iran. How are you? Have you been paying attention to it? But what are your thoughts about the war?
It's so far outside of my bailiwick, I guess. What I will say is, death to America, as always, of course.
Absolutely.
And that really is kind of the beginning and end of it for me. I feel like if I were to say too much more, I'd be out over my skis in a way that isn't going to be helpful to anybody. But I am physically a lot closer to Iran than I normally am. I am in the Netherlands right now.
Yeah.
I got to say, it is a beautiful day today. Unusually beautiful. It's like 62 and sunny.
Ooh, oh my God.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing. Beautiful. Well, I hope you can enjoy it while you're out there.
I've just been inside a studio podcasting all day and continuing right now. But,
I love to go on vacations and only podcast.
That's the thing is, you know what? Honestly, this isn't really a vacation. This is mostly a work trip. Like I've already recorded a couple podcasts, like done guest appearances. I will be doing another one tomorrow. It's just podcasting is at the end of the day a lifestyle choice, and I feel very fortunate to have chosen this life.
Yeah, it's a goofy one. That's what I'll say about that. No, I feel the same way. My trip to New York later this month, some of my coworkers, like some friends are like, "Oh, what are you gonna go do out there?" And I'm like, I'm gonna go like hang out and see some sites and also record a few podcasts. And it's like it feels insane to say something like that when asked, "What are you going to do?
What do you got coming up?" Are you able to say at this time? Are you able to reveal to our listenership at this time what it's going to be, or keeping that under
I'll reveal it. I'll reveal later on. Yeah,
right.
when they're done. Just in case.
Of course, you never know.
Up. Yeah,
just in case things happen. Yeah.
But I got two planned.
I mean, I know at least one of those is going to be a podcast. Well, maybe this is the secret third one.
Yeah, there's a secret third.
You are going to be coming on my other podcast, The Worst of All Possible Worlds. I feel pretty comfortable with announcing that publicly at this time.
Thank you for giving permission to
You're
tell
welcome.
Our audience that I'm going to be on your other show. But no, I can't wait for that one. I've been watching. I'm almost done with the Beast Games season 2.
Beast Week.
And I don't want to say too much. But the end of episode 8, I lost my fucking mind. I started like screaming.
Is that the one that has a rating of like when all the episodes are broken down? That's the one where out of 10 it's rated like 3.
No, that's episode 6.
Oh, okay.
Episode 8 to me is kind of peak right up until the last 10 minutes, and then I want to do something to Mr. Beast. We got to do something about this guy. This guy. But no, can't wait for that. Yeah,
Mr. Beast, a great example of an American man, and I think a shining paragon of masculinity, right?
Oh, absolutely. So many people look up to him for his masculine leadership skills.
For sure,
absolutely.
And I feel like, before we get into the meat today, I know you've prepared us a remarkable episode about a truly fantastic, at least in part about a truly fantastic documentary that I just have the absolute privilege of watching.
Yeah.
But maybe before...
Curse your mind with it.
Oh, God. But before we get there, well... You know what time it is, right?
Is it the world famous mailbag?
Oh my God. What the hell is it doing here in the Netherlands? Jesus Christ.
It's following you.
How did it get here?
Do you want to do the first one?
Rather appropriately, this one is titled Men, and it's from Wesley, who says, for the world famous ill-conceived mailbag, trademark. I've noticed a lot of episodes focused on specific men. Jeffrey Epstein, Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, Balaji Srinivasan, Matt Iglesias, John Harvey Kellogg, and of course, James Dobson. But only a few specifically addressing women, generally. Moms for Liberty, trad wives, but not any individual women specifically. I get this is probably because of the way society remains structured to allow individual men to accumulate money and power more easily than individual women. That women are usually the objectified target of pro-natalist policies, and these movements disapprove of women in positions of power, implicitly or explicitly. All that preamble out of the way, here's my question. Who is your favorite, or least favorite, as the case may be, individual woman you have come across in your past research? Thank you for the excellent work you both do. I always look forward to the horrors that these movements produce. Yours, a coward who can't decide whether to say June and Josh or Josh and June.
I do appreciate that. Yeah, no, thank you for that email. I feel like, I've realized that too, that it's like, obviously, for as this email laid out, a lot of men. I think individually, for the research I've done so far, probably the Moms for Liberty women, particularly because they are so obviously attached to the hip of the Republican Party, used in the way that they do, like as the mechanism that it is. Yeah.
Bridget from Moms for Liberty, for me specifically, was fun to look into. Bridget Ziegler, mostly for me, it was just like how she's such a freak in her personal life, you know, like the whole having three-ways with her husband with a woman thing, and the weird contradiction between her own stated personal values and then the actual honest to goodness shit that she was getting up to, I found really interesting, because I think a lot of the people who we talk about on the show obviously are freaks in their own personal lives. And I don't even mean freak necessarily in a derogatory sense. I just mean like they are engaging in behavior that is deviant relative to the expectation.
Yeah, the standards that they uphold to, like that they put on everyone else in whatever the politic they have.
And they don't stick to that expectation themselves. It's just that normally they keep it kind of discreet, whereas in this case, obviously, she had her dirty laundry just dragged right out into the open. And I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's something I think we've seen a lot more of recently. In the past, we'd seen, of course, a lot of anti-abortion Republicans be like come out and it's like, oh, they had an abortion, like they forced someone to have an abortion, or they had like, before gay marriage was more accepted, it was like, oh, this person bought like a male escort and had gay sex with that. Like that's the stuff you would sort of see. But a lot these days are, like women like Bridget, where Lauren Boebert was like giving a hand job to a man in a like public theater, and that goes against their stated morality generally, and there's so many different examples of this, different like right-wing influencers too. There was, blanking on the name, but there was there was a very recent influencer infighting because there was one of these influencer couples had like an open relationship and would like have sex with multiple people, and of course the hard right Christian conservatives have a big problem with stuff like that. So we see it happen more and more, and very openly. Like, at least people know about this. It seems like Milo Yiannopoulos knows everyone's tea, is what I'm learning.
I mean, he is like a very specifically messy type of gay man, so it makes sense, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, no, I think other than like the Moms for Liberty crew, I think once we finally start to do a more global approach on this podcast, I think one of the seasons eventually will be focused on like different countries and like different times in like world history, probably, especially looking at like Nazi Germany, of course. But I think whenever we start talking about like the UK TERF movement, which I think deserves an episode at some point, I'm sure we'll find someone like J.K. Rowling alone is reprehensible compared to a lot of people we've talked to on the show so far.
She is. I mean, she's not really a natalist, though.
She's not, is the thing. Yeah.
But there are absolutely people in this movement who are aggressively natalist and aggressively transphobic. I think another big piece of it is that, natalism, the kind of natalism we talk about on this show, is inherently patriarchal, right? In a lot of cases, the stuff that we are talking about is actually just a stalking horse for male supremacy, essentially. And the idea that like women's rights writ large need to be rolled back.
Yeah. And I do think in the UK in particular, the type of natalism that we do see mirrors a type of an American natalism in the sense that it's very anti-immigrant, very xenophobic, very white supremacist. So I think, there is a lot going on there in regards to the UK, a lot of panic around immigrants. And, that's what the whole Brexit affair was essentially about at the end of the day, too. Yeah.
I also think at some point I might be interested in doing an episode about Hannah Nealman, the Ballerina Farms lady.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We only briefly talked about her.
We touched on her in the Tradwife episode, but
she deserves a deeper dive, I think.
Because, she is an honest to goodness cultural force. But the thing is, you probably wouldn't have heard of her unless you're sort of in these feminine influencer communities. It's like she's so powerful in that world, but outside of that world, she's basically unknown. She's very much connected with like Evie and that whole women's. I am interested in the piece of the movement that is laundering these ideas to a female audience.
Yeah, that portion of our Tradwives episode, definitely deeper dive in that sort of anti-feminist women's worlds, that like Mormon. I don't even know what to consider that, but that whole world is just so deep and unexplored, I feel like.
Yeah. I also think the last piece of it, in terms of why we haven't talked about as many women, particularly in this season, is that this season of the show has been about tech natalism. And the technology industry in general is just so dominated by men.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I mean, I guess we could talk about like fucking Sheryl Sandberg, but she's also not really a natalist.
Yeah, maybe one day. Who knows?
Who knows?
Much to explore.
So alongside this letter, we've got one more. June, do you want to go for this one?
Absolutely. So this one is James Dobson, deaf, had a foot fetish, and / Melania documentary. This is from Nick. Howdy, June and Josh. I got that one.
Fuck!
I win. We got it. We're back.
June wins the week due to
Me
Wesley
choosing to read. Yeah.
Well, it says June wins if you read this.
I got it. Thing. There we go.
And also, because of Wesley's unfortunate cowardice, that one ended up being neutral. So June wins the week. The Mailbag Wars will continue.
Yippee. I'm going to start with the Melania documentary. Even though it's not this podcast, it will make sense. I was raised a young Earth creationist, aka the Bible is literally true, evolution isn't real, and the Earth is 6,000 years old. Was listening to your reviews of the Melania movie and your viewing experiences. I knew from previous episodes that Caleb had recently moved to Tacoma. When he started talking about how packed the theater was, I groaned out loud because I realized he had to have watched it in Gig Harbor, or as Caleb described it, a weird Nazi enclave. I cannot begin to describe the bastion of Christian insanity this place is. Growing up, my parents would constantly play James Dobson's radio show. I think there were tapes as well. My youth pastor would encourage me to read his books, and I read several. There's this thing that's been stuck in my head for like 30 years now, and I'm giving it to you now. I'm pretty sure James Dobson had a mad foot fetish. All right. In his books meant to guide young men, he would talk about masturbation a lot.
Like a lot. Yeah.
Would he? I've never read any of his stuff.
Yes. He has a fixation on masturbation.
Interesting. It was a sin, but don't feel terrible about it, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah. And to be clear, like I want to be very precise about this as well, from also having read a lot of James Dobson. His position was always, it's not a sin to masturbate per se, but it is a sin to masturbate while like having lustful thoughts or looking. And so it's like, okay, well, come on.
He's like, you can be an ethical masturbator.
by like just looking at the wall and jerking it, I guess. I don't know. But that was his position. Very strange
thoughts while you masturbate.
That's right. That was actually his platform. Yeah.
Holy shit. I remember that he would list off the parts of young women you might be attracted to, gross, and he never failed to mention feet. I'm not kink shaming, but it's burned into my brain, and now hopefully yours as well.
Yes.
Love y'all's pods. Keep up the good work exposing these fucking weirdos.
All right.
That's crazy that he seemingly always mentioned feet. Holy shit. Dude absolutely did have a foot fetish. And
I guess I never clocked that. With Dobson and his writings, the thing that I do clock is that he absolutely has like a cruelty kink. I think that he is a sadist because in so much of his stuff, he will specifically talk about like, in the way that like some of this pornography and the way that a lot of it has people being so cruel to these women. It's the most horrible thing you've ever seen. The way that they subject these women to this horrible cruelty, the way that they're treating them with this vile sadism, and he just goes on and on and on and on about it.
Yeah. See, I would not be surprised that this awful, evil man was like laundering his kinks in this way because he was like deeply ashamed of certain thoughts he had or whatever. Yeah.
Well, particularly with his whole history, and I remember we talked about this on the Dobson episode, how like he also has this very clear relationship with pain in his own life that came from the fact that like his mother beat the shit out of him, and that clearly imprinted on him in a psychosexual way. Like, yeah.
Absolutely. No, not a coincidence. James Dobson, world's biggest foot fetishist in history.
That's right. We can safely say. We can confidently say that as a statement of fact. Because now that he's dead, guess what?
He can't be sued.
We can't be sued, and he can't be defamed. He's fucking dead. The guy was jacking to feet 3 times a day. He had a disembodied foot in his closet that he would pull out and use to jork off his own penis.
I love free speech. I love the First Amendment. I love it, dude. All right, we're not here to talk about foot fetishism.
No, but it's got me so head up. I'm so just I can't stop thinking about these feet.
Yeah. Oh my God. No. Well. Let's clean the slate. Let's get down from that high that you just got. You're very excited. So today we're here to talk about the general myths around the falling testosterone rates, falling sperm rate. That's something I think we've seen a lot throughout doing the show and just general politics these days, especially with this modern Donald Trump administration, his second term.
It just keeps coming up over and over and over again. These guys who are like, well, we got to do something about the sperm. The sperm is going to zero, folks.
Yeah. And like, right off the bat, when I first heard that, I was like, okay, like, sure, probably these rates are falling, maybe. But the underlying implication whenever people like RFK or anyone else in his administration talks about this is that there will be a time in our future where that rate will hit zero and humanity will become completely infertile and sterile.
Right.
And that's always the part that's like, okay, this is kind of weird. And sort of why I wanted to do this episode is just to sort of take a look at their worldview and talk about why they think this may be. So that's what we're doing here today.
And in order to learn about this, in order to help me learn about this, right, you very generously recommended a fantastic documentary.
A wonderful film.
The End of Men by Tucker Carlson, which over the course of its 34 minutes, it's such a fucking shotgun blast of a movie. Like, it is all over the place.
It has a little bit of everything. Frankly,
Yes.
I was surprised that it was not like an hour and a half long feature. I'm surprised it was so short.
It was such a potpourri. It was such a variety pack. Like, I every single one of those threads, it was just like, wow, I can't wait to see where this goes. And then it just kind of stops and moves on to the next thing. Good shit.
Yeah, no, wonderful film that we'll talk about more in detail a little bit later into this episode. Just before we get to that, because I feel like we need to set up just a few baseline, like, scientific understanding and like just a scientific basis of what we will be talking about going forward. So just right at the top, are testosterone rates really falling? Are sperm rates really falling? in short, actually, yeah, they are falling at the rates that people like RFK tends to cite, around like the 50% decrease. So just like the basis of the average far-right hysteria, there's always like an underlying truth, right? That's sort of how they get their foot in the door with the average person, is they take a truth and they expand on it, and then they're like, there is a globalist plot, right? That's always what they do.
Birth rates, right? That's the thing that we talk about on the show every fucking week. The idea being, well, birth rates used to be at this number. Now they've gone down to that number. That means that trend can only continue all the way down to 0, and then there will be no people left, period.
Right. And of course, ridiculous, not based in actual reality at all in a lot of these cases. But study after study does in fact show that testosterone declines are somewhere between 20 to 30% over the last 50 years, and the sperm decline estimates are about 50% over the last 50 years as well. So while that is the case, is that as disastrous as those on the right make it out to be? I mean, not really. It's not civilizational. People who do suffer from low testosterone and sperm counts will likely suffer from symptoms like reduced libido, erectile dysfunction, infertility, depression, loss of muscle mass, just all sorts of different things. So it's not good to it's not good for a man to have abnormally low levels of these, but it's not a civilizational threat, right? Like there's really no science to show that there will be a complete end point where there is no more sperm, no more testosterone. That tends to be like science cranks that are just sort of saying this for an agenda, right?
People such as Secretary of Health and Human Services Robert F. Kennedy Jr., for instance.
he is a notable person that does think that there will be a point in our future where there was a 0 sperm produced in men, which is just wrong. There's no science there.
I guess my question about all of this is, based on your research, what are the actual attendant health implications of this? And is there anything in the way of consensus around the proximate causes for this?
So there are a couple for sure agreed upon causes that have led to worsening rates of testosterone and sperm counts. So the main 2 pillars within this discussion that are generally agreed upon within science, it's the environmental factors and just personal health factors. So let's just start with environmental factors. One of the biggest aspects of the environmental role in all of this is that there are things called endocrine disrupting chemicals, or EDCs, that will interrupt normal hormone cycles by mimicking hormones in our bodies and will block these hormone receptor sites in our bodies. On the low level, again, everything in moderation, not a big deal. It's not a huge concern, but we're a very industrialized society. We heavily rely on plastics, things like PFAS, so PFAS, which is, I don't think I'm going to pronounce this correctly at all.
Go for it.
Perfluoroalkyl and polyfluoroalkyl substances, which are basically just a easier way to say it, forever chemicals, things that are known as forever chemicals, things that are really hard to get out of our environment, things that do affect our bodies. Things PFAS are in things like nonstick cookware, pesticides, just basically things humans make.
Polyfluoroalkyl.
Fluoroalkyl.
So I guess it contains
pure fluoroalkyl.
It contains fluorides and alkalides, I guess.
I think so. That sounds about right. That sounds like what plastic is.
And you know what? If I had to break it down one more, I bet there are multiple of them. The fluorides and the alkalides, there's probably poly of them, if I had to guess.
What are humans without options? What is capitalism without options here? Yeah.
My fluorides and alkalides are poly. This is nothing.
That's actually something that's basic chemistry. I think that's that's basic chemistry. There are probably multiple. I don't know the actual cellular atom level, but there's probably some atom. The poly probably refers to the atom basis or some sort of chemical. Whatever.
Basic chemistry is what I call it when I walk into the poly party and a girl looks at me. I don't know.
We got to workshop that one.
We can figure this out, right?
There is a joke there that a chemistry professor would love.
That's right. Oh, God, yes. Chemistry professors who listen to our podcast, and I know there's got to be at least a few of you, help me workshop this bit. illconceivedpod@gmail.com.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. So, industrialization, huge. It's one of the biggest factors why these endocrine disrupting chemicals exist and enter our body, because they're in everything we use. Mm-hmm. It's just what modern society sort of is. And that's not ideal. Like, scientists have understood these environmental toxins and what role they play on human health for a long time. These scientists have warned politicians, governments, like, hey, we need to roll some of this production back. We need to start figuring out different alternatives. I mean, we saw stuff like trying to switch plastic straws to paper straws. That was a very low level of this, of course. But, there are ways to solve this, to not produce as much plastic. It's just, of course, our government and capitalist industries don't really like that. Plastic is so easy to produce. It's so cheap. And it's it's so hard to regulate massive industries like the farming industrial complex or agriculture,
Right. Because it's both on the agri side of things and the production side of things. Like, if you want to tell the Coca-Cola company that they're not allowed to use plastic anymore, they're going to say, go fuck yourself. And they're going to buy.
They will kill you.
They might. No, and that's the thing, right? It's the Coca-Cola company has a long and storied history of, in the areas that they exploit, getting their way through violence. And in the United States, of course, all of these industries make sure that they buy as many politicians as are necessary to keep advancing their goals.
Yeah, it's very ingrained in especially American culture, which, of course, American hegemony sort of that sort of permeates most of the world at this point, sadly. So it's one of those things where scientists have been trying and attempting. There have been minor efforts in different states, in different administrations, but nothing to really reverse course. So EDCs do play a big factor because they do block those hormone receptors. They block testosterone. They block estrogen. So that does play a factor, actually, especially with microplastics are everywhere. We have so many microplastics in us. We're sort of at a point where it's we have to start minimizing as much as possible. On top of this, a worsening ecosystem also does play a role. The more pollution we produce, whether it be in the air we breathe, in the water we drink, through pesticide usage, because pesticide usage, of course, does worsen water quality, especially for farming. Large scale, massive farming, that pesticide can get in water, local water supplies, runoff. It's a very common thing. That's why you see a lot of algae blooms in small ponds in rural areas, is because pesticides, fertilizers. Yeah.
And many of the suppliers for this, companies like Monsanto, have a vested interest in ensuring that people continue to use their seeds, which they then treat to resist the pesticides that they will also sell the farmers.
Yeah, it's a big cycle that, again, I think we can very easily trace back to the roots of the sickness of capitalism. So, we're going to have to do, it's going to be, for something like this, for environmental factors, it's not just something you can individually sort of change. It's going to have to be a large-scale governmental program to sort of move away from these, to help to sort of change course on these issues.
And I think this is where there's a really good piece of news, is that the federal government that we currently have, this White House that we currently have, is occupied by people who want to make America healthy again. And so based on this, and based on the documentary that we watched, I'm sure that they're going to be doing their level best to give the Environmental Protection Agency a lot of authority, right? And a lot of teeth to make sure that the people and the companies that are polluting our beautiful planet will see consequences for their actions, right?
Yeah, you'd think so. You would imagine that people that say Maha, that make America healthy again, and have criticized things like Big Pharma and Monsanto and the different agricultural industries would have a strong stance on stuff like this.
They're doing it, right? They're making the EPA stronger, right?
We'll get to that. We'll get to that one. Yeah. No, sadly, the EPA, I don't actually have it in this, but I believe the EPA recently basically got rid of all baseline environmental standards across the board. So their EPA is essentially abolished, as far as I understand.
They basically did the same thing to the EPA that they've done to the Department of Education, and they've just been like, this is an agency this is now an enforcement agency in name only.
Yeah, there is just someone occupying the office That's all it is. So yeah, it's not going to happen under Maha, even though they claim to prioritize stuff like this. Not going to happen under this administration.
Got this weird feeling that these guys aren't on the level. I feel like maybe there's a difference between what they say and what they do. I can't quite pin it down.
Wait, you're saying that these people fucking lie to us?
I don't know. I think they might.
That these people are lying? No, surely not.
I don't know.
No,
maybe.
No. I think by the end of this episode, we'll be able to determine if they're lying or not.
I'm going to be so mad by the end of this episode.
Yeah, no, we're like early. This is like, we're just doing basic science stuff right now. We're not even at the stuff that made me mad, like researching this episode. Like this stuff actually did make me mad because a lot of this stuff, like at the highest level, I worked in food science for a long time. In college, I have an ecology degree with an environmental science minor. Most of my entire adult life and like childhood was focused around understanding these things and understanding the impact that our ecology has on human health and just like society writ large. And it makes me really mad that I'm 30. I just turned 30 recently. And it's like, we're still in a place in this world where this is stuff that people in power do not take seriously at all, especially because they fucking claim to. These people, and I didn't trust them, let me be clear. I did not trust fucking RFK Jr. No, obviously, he's a fucking fraud. But the fact that they give lip service to some of these things and lie, and people saying like, oh no, RFK is going to fix everything. No, like everyone is just a fucking fraud, basically. And it frustrates me as someone who has a decent understanding of a lot of these topics, in this episode in particular.
Well, and the endocrine disrupting chemicals thing is interesting too, because it is one of the things they will call out specifically. They will do so, and that is correct. That is scientifically accurate, and that is so often how these people work, is they will start with a premise that is maybe not quite what they say it is, right? They extrapolate some weird trends from it, but fundamentally the thing is true. Fundamentally with birth rates, yes, birth rates are lower than they have been. Similarly with birth rates, you can trace a lot of that back to fundamental issues that people have or fears that they have about the world around them. But you get this moment then where they sort of like move off onto a different trajectory in a way that is, I think, intentionally misleading. I think they know what they're doing, and I think they know what they're saying is bullshit.
I do too. I do think a lot of the time they do start with these truths and lead you down a path. It is intentional pipelining. And I think the End of Men documentary pretty properly outlines this.
Yes, it demonstrates it really well.
That's why I really was like, Josh, you need to watch this for this episode, because it really ties everything together. It ties the intentional lying pipelining strategies that these right-wingers use in these topics and why it convinces so many people. But before we get to that, the other main pillar, I would say, in the real factors that are causing testosterone and sperm decline are just like personal health and food factors. It's not a secret really that humans have been gaining more weight compared to historic human averages over the last 50 years, which trends with the decrease of testosterone and sperm. And has also contributed to worsening health complications and just general infertility in humans.
And particularly, I should say, in the United States. More than anywhere else, the United States has a real problem with obesity.
Absolutely. It is. I saw the last 2 years, 2024 and 2025, probably due to GLP-1s. We have started to see a decline in obesity, and I do imagine that we'll start to see a decline in diabetes as well because of that, which is great. I think, there's a lot of critique around GLP-1s and Ozempic, but I think they're objective goods. I think how they advertise them is really scummy and weird, but I think as like a product, as like a medical thing, I think it's good. Personally.
I also just want to say, for the record, before I know there's at least one person out there who's already gotten mad and has started emailing us because I said that obesity is a problem for the country. I want to be very clear. By that, I don't mean if you are overweight, that makes you a bad person, or that means that blah, 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 right? But when you look at the way that the United States is with regard to obesity, and you look at literally everywhere else in the world, it is very clear that there are aspects of the way that this country works and the way that people live in this country that are fundamentally different from everybody else. Mm-hmm. That is not an issue of individual choice. I am not saying, again, I'm not casting like individual moral blame here. I am saying that the United States has a very specific public health problem around weight. And I think that GLP-1s are essentially a Band-Aid for what is a bigger problem, or rather a symptom that reflects a broader societal problem that the country has.
I mean, think of it this way. The United States is so sprawled out. You need a car to survive in the average city, in the average state, in like 45 of the 50 states. You need to have a car to exist.
And it wasn't always this way either.
No.
That's the thing that people forget, is that up until the advance of the automobile industry as pioneered by Henry Ford, and particularly up until the construction of the interstate highway system, we had really good passenger rail in the United States, and there were dense, walkable downtown cores
everywhere, in every city, in every state. Yeah, people. Whenever people post photos like of less than 100 years ago of like red states in their downtowns, people are like, I can't believe this used to. Like this, it looks like Chicago in Kansas. Why does it look like Chicago?
Like in Kansas City, yes.
Cities used to just be walkable.
Right.
Society has completely reoriented around cars and set it like a sedentary lifestyle, that's a huge role. And it's not a choice. It's not like, it was not a choice that all of us made. It was a choice that the government
for us.
And capitalistic industries made for us. And that's, I think, a very important point. I think that pisses off a lot of people on the right when you say it like that, but it's true. A lot, like the way that Americans in particular live, and I think a massive part as to why Americans have gained more weight compared to most of history is just because of the lifestyle sort of imposed on us.
Right. And the sort of thing about choice capitalism that we all get to enjoy is that we then, and this is something that happens also with Maha, is that they say, well, you're just not making the right choices. If only you were to eat more beef tallow, then you wouldn't be obese. And it's like, that's not how any of this works.
Everyone works so many hours. Everyone works maybe 2 jobs.
Yeah.
Everyone's exhausted. Everyone is like depressed. Everyone it's easy to get cheap food that's lower quality than good food for you that's higher quality, more nutrients. It's just everything about living in the world currently is just very hard. You have to go out of your way to do a lot of things to stay very healthy.
And unless you're one of the people who is working jobs that involve actual like manual labor, you're probably working a job where you're sitting on your fucking ass in front of a computer for 8 or more hours a day.
I guess for personal context, I experienced exactly that. I used to, 2 years ago now, for about 3 years of my life, I used to work in food industry, the food science industry, and I had a very active job. I walked around throughout the warehouse a lot. I did a lot of lifting, up to 50 pounds. I would do all sorts of stuff. I was very active. I would lift. I would hit like 10,000 steps every day minimum. It was very, very busy. And then now, I do podcasts and I work at the Onion. I sit a lot.
Right.
In the last 2 years, I've gained about like 30 pounds, which like I've once again a couple of weeks ago started working out, but it's like I'm so busy, it's hard to do that.
Right.
But it's like because of that, when you're more sedentary, you just gain more weight, and that's fine. I like it. It's a normal thing. It happens.
Right, and that's not a moral failing or anything. It just is
Definitely
what
not.
it is. The problem is when you couple that tendency with a reliance on automobiles and also low quality food and just a general world in which you are not going to be as active as you need to be, you are going to gain weight, and there are going to be bang on health complications as a result of that.
Absolutely. And just, sedentary lifestyle, if you just like don't work out, if you sit most of the day, that does correlate with like just lower energy overall and lower testosterone levels. If you're not moving, if you're not active, you will just have a general lower testosterone level. That's just sort of working out produces testosterone, if I understand it properly. So of course, not as many people work out or are as active. So testosterone will just be lower because of that. And as we sort of talked about, we eat more processed foods than most of human history ever. Everything is like sort of processed. So a pet peeve of mine, this is no one else is as annoyed than me. It's such a stupid thing that I sort of get annoyed about. But when people talk about processed food, I hate this discussion because like you could technically argue that anything we buy on our shelves is processed. And you could make that argument very easily, and you would be correct in that. Like an apple is processed. Everything is processed. So when people say processed food is bad, it annoys me, because what they really mean is something called ultra processed food. That's the stuff that you think of like a Twinkie, something that's derived from foods and different additives like starch, oils, fats, sugars, all of that sort of stuff. All of this stuff on its own is not unhealthy. It's just the quantity that Americans in particular eat these things, because of course everyone's really busy. It's easy to just be like, I'm going to eat a bunch of chips. I'm going to get a burger from Burger King and some fries. It's easy. It's tasty. It's so good. I love a burger. Oh my God, I love pizza. It's so easy. You don't have to like put any effort in making this food. So it's like, again, in moderation, this stuff isn't bad, but it's just a lot of people, including me, and when I'm very busy, eat a lot of this stuff. It's everywhere. It's cheap.
And mechanically, in order to keep something shelf stable for a long period of time, you have to use preservatives. And the longer something is going to last, the more preservatives you have to use to keep it shelf stable.
Right.
And because Americans have become acclimated to having things that are ready to go and ready to eat rather than cooking from raw ingredients, you're going to be getting more of these ultra processed foods.
And, you know, with that, the ultra processed foods, we also just eat a lot more fried foods generally, too. Oil's so cheap. It used to be a luxury. Like, people used to eat fried food maybe once a week maximum. That was like their thing. That was like their treat during the week. But it's just everywhere now. Everything is fried. Oil you can get everywhere. And again, this sort of ties into the myth of seed oils on the right, where they're like, oh, seed oils are the problem. Seed oils are why everyone's unhealthy now. And it's like, no, not really. Seed oils by themselves. We've talked about this a little bit in our RFK episode.
Yeah, just how funny it is, the idea that like, oh, if you eat the same amount of Steak and Shake, but now it's fried in beef tallow rather than seed oil, it's going to be better for you. No, if anything, it's going to be worse for you.
Yeah, no, it's like the act of deep frying is what makes a lot of the oils as unhealthy as they are. Oils, again, everything in moderation, fine. But there's not really a way to eat deep fried food in moderation to a degree that's healthy. But yeah, no, that's a whole different world. We went into a lot more detail on that in one of our original episodes if you want to dig a little bit more into seed oils. And then just final thing here, we sleep less, doom scroll more. I do this all the time. I'm a victim. I don't sleep as much as I probably should a lot of the time. I try to get like that 6 to 7 hour baseline, but that's hard. A lot of people don't. And that does affect fertility and just different health aspects as well.
And another thing that I just wanted to say about that is I think this is another example where, yes, there is an aspect of individual agency to this. Obviously, the mentally healthy thing to do is put away your phone. But these are applications that have been designed to be as engaging and addictive as possible.
Yeah.
And so like that's the thing, right? Is to simply chalk this up to individual choice and individual agency. It's not wrong exactly, but it misses a much bigger picture question, which is
a systematic issue.
Exactly. And how have we allowed these particular systems to have such purchase when they are systems that hurt us so very badly?
And it's, you know, all of this, everything in this little portion I was talking about here, you can see the through line of corporations, businesses, tech companies profit so much on exploiting these different things. The longer you scroll on Facebook or whatever you scroll, the more reels you watch at 1 a.m. Not great for you, but it's by design, right? It's those dopamine. It hits that dopamine. Oh, you got it. Oh, I love watching reels before going to bed, but it's not great, and that's by design. And I'm sorry, I turned this turned into a little bit of a health class lecture. I just had to.
You're not
use some
sorry.
Of my experience.
Don't lie
I'm
to
not
me.
sorry. I'm not sorry, but I am sorry. I'm a little apologetic, only slightly. I love talking about this stuff. Like I said, I studied a lot of this for years. I love being able to bring some of this stuff out. And I just think it's very important context going forward for this next part of the episode, as to understand like how the far right captures a sort of audience with their pseudo health science. And we need to understand why they're wrong, why they lie about certain things, and why they're sort of half correct about some of these issues to bring you down that fascist pipeline. So enter the thing I forced Josh to watch Tucker Carlson and the fascistic bro scientists in the Tucker Carlson original, The End of Men. I couldn't get over how this was a Tucker Carlson original. I like that that's a thing that existed at one point, a Tucker Carlson original TM.
Yeah, so these Tucker Carlson originals, where did they originally air? Do you know?
So this was right before he got let go from Fox News. Okay. So they aired on Fox, like the Fox network.
Oh, I assume Fox Nation.
Fox Nation.
Fox Nation. That was like their streaming service.
Right.
And still is. The only time I ever see ads for Fox Nation is when I am watching sports on the Fox network.
No, they were sort of, it was near the end of Tucker Carlson's more mainstream career, where they were like, this was Fox News's and Fox Network's biggest guy. He was like their main host, main guy. So they were like, let's get this guy like a documentary series.
Sure.
So there's actually
a weird cracked version of Netflix. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know if you took a look, but there is a lot of Tucker Carlson original episodes. There's like at least over 30 or something. Yeah, there's a lot.
Are all of them as deranged as this one?
I couldn't tell you. This is the only one I've watched. Okay. I only looked at some of the titles of other ones. Maybe some of the other ones are worth digging into at some point. Related to this show, maybe not. But I'll take a dive. But I think this one in particular really fits this theme of the show and this episode. The one we watched that we'll be talking about is called The End of Men. And it's just one episode of this Tucker Carlson original series that lasted, I think, about 2 years, ended right when Tucker Carlson got fired from Fox News in 2023 over that Fox News settlement. There was that defamation lawsuit with Dominion Voting Systems where he alleged that there was widespread fraud, that there was, the election was stolen in favor of Joe Biden, and the Fox News let him go as a result of that.
I remember that. Now, that was, to be clear, he did not make that claim as part of one of his Tucker Carlson originals. I think he just did that on Fox News, right?
I think so. I don't know the entire Tucker Carlson lore. Maybe he made an episode of a Tucker Carlson
about like votes being stolen. Maybe. I guess we could look into this. This bears further research. Just a little point of clarification here from editing Josh. The big thing that caused Tucker Carlson to lose his job is that he got a hold of some footage that was provided to him by the House Republicans of the January 6th attack. And he basically used that footage to spin it as, these rioters weren't committing crimes at all. This, of course, was a lie, part of the big lie that was deployed to question the account of January 6th. Of course, the great news is that Donald Trump was found guilty for his crimes, convicted, thrown in prison, and we never had to hear from him again.
Yeah, but for sure he did talk about this. He was one of the main peddlers on Fox News in particular of that conspiracy theory. And as an aside, I think that's still one of the funniest conspiracy theories. It has horrible implications just for elections going forward, especially because everyone in the Trump White House believes that. But it's so funny. Like the idea that Democrats could rig the 2020 election while not having any real national power in the White House, anything. They could rig that. But when they were in the White House, they couldn't rig the 2024 election?
Right.
Like, what do you mean? That's what's so funny about it. It's like, to believe this is to believe in the most ridiculous reality.
From what I've heard, the argument there goes, they did their goddamnedest, right? But the support in favor of Trump was made it too big to rig. And so even though, the popular vote breakdown only had Trump winning by 2 percentage points or something like that in the popular vote, barely. Percentage point and a half, something like that. The real vote, bath party margins,
he was putting up Assad numbers. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And it was only because of that fact. It was only because he had this insane mandate that it was sufficient to overcome the vote rigging and put him into office again.
What a crazy worldview, dude. To be like, it was too big to rig. They tried to rig it, but it was too big. That's so funny. I just think that's horrible implications aside, really fucking funny.
It explains a lot, though, when you think that is what they actually believe,
Yeah. A lot of people do. I think people maybe underestimate how widespread a lot of this hysterical belief in a lot of the stuff is. But I mean, I think it feels a little cliche to say, but a lot of these people in MAGA world in particular, it's very cult-like. It's a very cult-like world. this episode, The End of Men, it's not about the end of men, sadly. That would be wonderful. But what, of course, it's really about is like worsening sperm, testosterone, what that means for society, and his proposed solutions to this, or maybe some implied solutions that he puts in this documentary, this short episode. So let's start talking about it. Are you excited? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. I did just want to say, for the record, I don't think that the end of men would be a good thing. I do want to end some men, though.
Some men. Yeah, actually, let's correct the record. I do agree with that. I think men are great. Some of my best friends are men.
I personally want to end certain men. I'm not going to say which ones on the show, because that could be very bad for me indeed. But
we've probably talked about a lot of those in particular on this show.
I can neither confirm nor deny that.
Yeah. We'll create a list. We'll get a tier list going. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
But that's a different episode.
Love a list.
Yeah, we'll work on that. Yeah. It's been a while since we've had a list. Oh my God, I just thought about that. I totally forgot about our lists. Aw. That's sad. Aw. So the reason why I prompted a lot of this episode with a science lesson, a little science discussion, is because the first half of this documentary sort of talks about those two things a little bit. Tucker Carlson, of course, though, in Tucker Carlson fashion, brings massive cranks that are frauds to talk about these things. The most notable, the prime example, the first person currently alive to say a word in this documentary is fucking RFK Jr.
My name is Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and I am the Secretary of Health and Human Services.
That's a really good impression. Holy
Thanks.
shit. That's really good. And I just got to say, he looks a lot better. This was 3 years ago, 4 years ago.
He looks so much better.
He looks so much better 4 years ago.
It's insane. A little bit of context. I am here in the Netherlands just hanging out, but also hanging with my friend Joe Kasabian, who hosts Lines Led by Donkeys. And we just sort of sat down and watched this thing together. And he said the exact same thing after he was on screen for like a moment. He was like, he looks so much better.
Yeah. I don't know what it is. There's always that very funny thing. It's like, oh my God, 20 years passed. Why does this person look so much different? And it's like, well, 20 years passed, but barely 4 years have passed.
Crazy.
And he looks like a different person. I understand why people believe clone theories.
Yeah, it's also like my friend Tom Harrison from Anime Sickos once said, he looks like he's just got a weird red guy inside of him. And someday he's finally going to manage to cough up that weird red guy and everything's going to be okay. But
in 2026, RFK is really, really close to throwing up that weird red guy.
Do you think we'll make him cough up the red guy in 2026?
I think by the end of the year, put it on Polymarket, put it on Kalshi. Weird red guy's coming out. But no, just like he looks notably different and worse. And of course, he has health problems, whatever.
Right.
I'm not, it feels silly to judge that sort of thing, I think. But it just stunned me right away because I didn't know going into this who was on this. I only knew that Raw Egg Nationalist was name dropped in this.
Friend of the show,
Raw Egg Nationalist.
Friend of the show, natal con attendee.
Right away, less than 1 minute in, a lot of this world we live in right now sort of starts to make sense right away when you see RFK Jr. in 2022 being normalized and sort of becoming sort of pushed into this right-wing sphere. You can sort of understand where RFK Jr.'s popularity with the Republican Party base sort of came from.
Yeah, it's his raw animal charisma. He's so fucking hot.
Yeah. Especially that voice.
Just ask Olivia Nuzzi about that.
But no, it's like a lot of these people, and we've talked about this a little bit before, especially in the Moms for Liberty episode, where post COVID lockdowns, that right around 2021, 2022, a big aspect of the right-wing movements in those years came with a lot of distrust of science and trusting more cranks, people like RFK Jr., scientists that have been sort of ousted in the scientific world because of their crazy beliefs and things that you should use bleach in your asshole to get COVID out, whatever, stuff like that. People in the right wing base were pushed to believe these people more than scientists or actual agreed upon science consensus, right? In this episode, right off the bat, RFK Jr. does correctly identify the things we talked about earlier, the environmental toxins, the forever chemicals, EDCs, stuff like that. But, he did do that. Josh, I don't know if you saw this, but a week ago, Donald Trump signed an executive order continuing the use of a weed killer that's classified as a forever chemical.
Wait, was it for Roundup specifically? It would be so funny if it was Roundup, because they actually name check Roundup specifically.
So I found the executive order. It doesn't name drop Roundup in particular, but the executive order that Trump just signed 2 weeks ago says it's titled Promoting the National Defense by ensuring an adequate supply of elemental phosphorus and glyphosate-based herbicides, which I assume maybe Roundup falls under. Basically, forever chemicals, these pesticides, anything like that, he is allowing the use of. He is not allowing for any regulations of these. And, RFK Jr. in this documentary criticizes this exact practice. He has made his namesake off of this in recent years, in the last 2 or 3 years, actually his whole career as like an environmental lawyer and the children's health defense chair.
I did just Google, by the way. Roundup is the original glyphosate.
No, so it's
which makes it so fucking funny that they name check it in the documentary as one of these things that's so damaging.
They show it. They show someone
holding
a thing of Roundup.
Yeah.
They show Roundup. So RFK Jr., such an obvious fraud. If it wasn't clear, if talking about everything we've talked about in this episode, going forward in this episode, just anything we've talked about, he is so obviously a fraud. He had to do the humiliation ritual. Yep. He had to put out a statement on Twitter that's too long to read. But I have it in the show notes if you want to read his massive statement. In summary, he's like, I like to be honest with the American people. I have to tell the truth. These things were designed to be, they're toxins, they're bad, but we got to do it, folks.
Oh my God, this is so long.
It's so long. It's so long.
Let me see if I can read a little bit of this. I will always tell the American people the truth. Pesticides and herbicides are toxic by design, engineered to kill living organisms. When we apply them across millions of acres and allow them into our food system, we put Americans at risk. Unfortunately, our agricultural system depends heavily on these chemicals.
Come on, dude.
I support President Trump's executive order to bring agricultural chemical production back to the United States and end our near total reliance on adversarial nations. It just goes on like this for a while.
Horrible. Just like a fucking fraud, a fucking loser. Someone has no convictions, believes in nothing other than furthering his career. All of these fucking people. It pisses me off. It pisses me off as someone who actually generally has in the past would look at something like RFK talking about environmental toxins and being like, he's sort of correct about this. He is not wrong. Not wrong. It's like, a lot of this stuff is bad for humans. And here he is. He gets into power off of this. He makes this whole presidential run, him backing Trump based around like, oh yeah, we're going to make America healthy again. We're going to do this, this and that. He gets tested once. Fucking folds
like a fucking lawn chair. I cannot get over Roundup specifically being one of the things that has been like we need to get rid of all of the seeds that are from companies like Monsanto. He
says Monsanto too.
He name checks Monsanto in the documentary, and it's like, motherfucker, the moment it comes up, you're like, oh, but for national security, I guess we have to do it. And it's like, fuck you, man. Fuck you fucking little bitch.
All of these wheeling frauds, wheeling fascists, that's literally all they care about. They just care about their careers. Tulsi Gabbard is another one of these people. People like RFK Jr. are fucking useful pawns for people like Donald Trump to lie to people, to fool them into believing that these people, that the Republican Party, that right-wingers have them in mind. They don't fucking care. No. They just never will. This is, I think, the most proof I have ever seen in my life that none of these people will ever care. RFK Jr. is probably the best case scenario for someone to be in this position under a Republican government. If anybody
was going to push back, it would be him.
Yeah. He's the one guy ever in this role on the Republican Party to do it, and he didn't. Fucking fraud. Pisses me off, genuinely. It's so frustrating. I didn't realize that executive order would correlate so perfectly with doing this episode.
And I feel like I should say at this point as well that in the documentary, the way they frame up RFK's introduction is that Tucker Carlson talks to this like coach at this high school somewhere.
Thank you for bringing this up. Yes.
And he's like, this guy is just talking about how like JFK designed the one and only good PE curriculum ever. And like, it is because we did not implement that curriculum going forward that all of our children are soy and cuck or whatever, right?
Yeah.
That is real leadership. That's what we're missing today. We need a renaissance, and we need someone like JFK again, a real man that can stand up and deliver the message without apology.
This is a challenge for us all.
I'm Robert Kennedy, and I am the chairman of Children's Health Defense.
Yeah, we just need someone. I wish there was someone out there that had the bravery, like JFK.
So weird.
If only we had someone. And then it like triumphant music starts. Shows RFK Jr. And it's like, come on, dude. No, just the framing. That coach talking about JFK, then fucking lobbing that over to RFK Jr. It's so obvious. It's, oh my God.
But most of the first part of it is just talking about how there's a fair bit about how kids are not active enough. Here, of course, we also get a pot shot about learning loss, COVID learning loss.
And most people just see PE as a nuisance and something to cut. And actually, it's getting cut left and right because of the pandemic. They're trying to take elementary kids and leave them in a seat 8 hours a day, trying to make up for the 2 years they lost in the pandemic. And the kids are literally losing their minds. And so what's happened is we have generations of young people now that they don't even know how to walk. Literally, I'm not exaggerating.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, that's just wrong.
I don't think that's true.
There's a weird belief. I feel like he might be one of those people. I've seen this like online where people will see someone who's like a teen or like a young adult that has like a cane to like do like assist with their walking, and they'll be like, oh my God, why are kids these days they like, this is like the trend, this is like a trendy thing. Like, he might be one of those guys that's like criticizing that.
And I think it's also probably the whole like, oh, all of these people with their COVID vaccines can't even stand up because they're injured by the COVID vaccine, right?
Yeah,
I think that's a piece of it too.
I think he just like he's one of those guys that doesn't believe in real things generally.
Yes.
I think he's probably right about people being more inactive these days. I think that's generally just true. But then, of course, again, the through line of this entire documentary, this episode, I call it a documentary. It's a Tucker Carlson original, not a documentary.
That's right. And boy, is it original, dear listener.
Yeah, but sort of the through line of this entire thing is that everything is based off of, like I said up top, a truth that brings you down to a weird fucking belief. Which also, before we sort of get to the second half of this documentary, because the first half sort of just talks about what we talked about before, mostly things that are true, sort of things, half things that are weird and half wrong. But what did you think about the imagery of like soy boys and soy jacks? And that was used throughout this documentary.
So weird.
Yeah.
Like that regularly they would cut to like a Reddit soy jack in some way, shape, or form. I mean, one thing that it shows you is that the people who made this documentary are chronically and irredeemably online.
Yeah.
And they believe that these visuals are effective shorthand to make the point, and they're just not. These are things that are utterly inscrutable if you yourself are not chronically online. And I am. So, like, I got the point they were trying to lay down. But looking at it, I was like, most people are going to have no idea what the fuck this means. And this extends to his selection of guests who, other than RFK Jr., are all weird guys from Twitter.
Yeah, and oh my God, that's sort of the second half of this Tucker Carlson original. Is it sort of frames up this discussion as like, oh, it's like science. We're doing science here today. This is just basic science, actually. And then it's like, okay, here are the bro scientists.
These are the scientists they don't want you to know about.
Yes. And it is literally, you're not even exaggerating. It is weird people from Twitter. Every single person that introduces themselves at this point gives their Twitter handle. Their fucking
I was like,
Twitter handle.
What are we? It felt like NatalCon all over again.
It did. And there was some overlap with Raw Egg Nationalist.
Yeah.
He spoke at NatalCon. I didn't re-listen to his NatalCon speech for this.
It's very similar. It's very
similar.
Fucking similar to his what he says in this Tucker Carlson original. Yeah. No, and it's like, it's a 35-minute fucking right-wing nationalism pipeline into this crazy ideology that seems to have permeated
a lot of the right wing, and for sure the Donald Trump administration. Like like if looking back at this, think in your mind being 2022. We're in 2022 again.
Okay,
You look
I'm
at this
thinking about it.
documentary.
Yeah.
You see the soy jack, and you're like, wow, this is very online. This is very weird. You don't normally see this from right wingers, especially in like establishment positions. Donald Trump, all of their social media strategy is just like this, is to like use soy jacks to do like this sort of weird groiper sort of like 4chan edits with like weird music that feels weird and like Sonnenrad's in the background. It's like that's sort of just like the average guy now in the
It's
right.
over for you. I've already depicted myself as the Giga Chad raw milk drinker and you as the cringe NPC. Like,
yeah. And literally, and like the fact that Tucker Carlson is so obviously trying to do this like little subtle thing where it's like, oh, I had scientists on at the start of this. These people that give their Twitter handles are just as reliable as the previous people. There is an equal level of reliability is what he is subtly implanting in people's minds.
Previously, to talk about PFAS, he has a lady who, if I recall correctly, was affiliated with the NIH somehow, right? National Institutes of Health.
Yeah.
Which also, I don't know, kind of funny to bring somebody in from the NIH when it's like, oh, so she was working for Dr. Fauci, your public enemy number one?
Yeah. Apparently.
Weird shit, man.
Very weird. But then, the ultimate point is to get to these weird Twitter guys. So I just have a clip here that I when I saw this, I just could not fucking believe my mind.
If the bro scientists have a spiritual leader, it would be a man who calls himself raw egg nationalist. Here's his message.
The enemy today is what I like to call soy globalism. The globalist aim is to destroy nations and local communities, and they do this by isolating communities and sickening them through food, and also through so-called medicine, and all the dreadful chemicals we're exposed to on a daily basis. The globalists want you to be fat, sick, depressed, and isolated, the better to control you and to milk you for as much economic value as they can before they kill you. That's soy globalism in a nutshell. Own nothing, live in the pod, eat the soy.
This was shocking. Like, this was genuinely shocking to hear on something that is being broadcast by a major American network over their streaming service, right? This is straight up, Jews run the world type shit.
Absolutely. And it's like basically what he's saying is like they are doing this to demoralize you. They are the globalists, the soy globalists are doing this to you to make you weak, facile, useless, to milk you dry.
Is that a promise?
The only true,
is that a promise?
Yeah, no, that part. I think they might have some issues with that part of it. But like, the part where right at the end, he's like the for-profit aspect is the only correct part. Is corporations do, as we talked about up top, they do, use Roundup because it's cheap. Right. They are doing certain things for profit. But people like the raw egg nationalists and these weird like bro scientists are like, this is a plot. They're out to get you. The Jews are going to get you.
But it's like very clearly not that, because yes, it is. It is about profit. It is about what is the most efficient way. But it's also about how do you do farming at scale, right? Because to feed the United States, and more accurately, to feed all of the animals that we end up eating, you need operations that run at an absolutely massive scale. And that frankly requires stuff like Roundup because of the systems that we have decided to build. Roundup and, of course, Roundup Ready Seed. And so you could talk about that if you wanted to, and then you could really dig into like what are all of the problems with modern American agriculture. But instead, they want to present this idea that it is being done to demoralize you specifically.
And that someone is holding you down.
Exactly. Someone specific. Who? Well, let's just say the globalists, shall we?
Yeah. And it's like, I feel like it's a very, just like, this is so obvious. I feel like before Donald Trump became president, people were talking about like, oh, how can you criticize Maha? It's just people trying to get healthy. And it's like, well, no, when you peel back a layer of this, it's, I guess, basic health and fitness, but it's mostly pseudoscience that thrives on like the fascistic narrative underlying it from people like raw egg nationalists, the people that are pushing people down a very obvious far right, like Nazi path, like a very intentional ideology here.
And I can't say that I'm surprised that Tucker Carlson specifically is laundering these narratives because, like, he is very clearly and obviously an anti-Semite. Like, I've been very frustrated in the last few days to see all of these people being like, oh, wow, he really put the screws to Mike Huckabee.
It's like, well...
why, though, right?
Yeah. The thing that about that is it is very frustrating. He is the only person to really take people to task insofar like in some of these issues, like with Israel and like the war in Iran, because a lot of journalists won't do that. But whenever he starts talking a little bit more about a lot of these things, it's like, oh, he doesn't like really care about these people. He's just sort of actually anti-Semitic in a lot of ways. Yeah.
And he's using all of this as a means to an end in much the same way that Maha uses these ideas of health as a means to an end, where they sort of bring you in based on what appears to be, and in some cases is or resembles a truthful premise. But then, of course, there's the switch for the bait. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And especially I've been watching... because he has become very, like, he does a lot of these interviews. I have watched a couple Tucker Carlson clips here and there, and something interesting that I've noted, people keep being like, oh, we got to hand it to Tucker Carlson on this one. And it's like, well, maybe, but no, look at the way he talks about these conflicts. He is not criticizing Trump. Right. He goes out of his way to not criticize Trump. He primarily just criticizes Israel. He tries to be like, oh, this is all, and I think there's a debate on, you know, with the war in Iran, there is a debate on how much this is sort of because Israel bringing us into this war. I think there's some truth to that. But I also think Donald Trump is psychotic. I think he is a warmonger. I think he wanted to do this. I think in certain, like, he didn't have to do this. Israel didn't force him to do that. So but I think Tucker Carlson sort of launders the far right in a way that's very subtle. Like, especially in this moment, he's very good at threading that needle. I hate to hand it to him. He is a very, very smart fascist. He is very smart.
Yeah, he's got a level of sophistication that a lot of these people lack, and that makes him very fucking dangerous.
He's intentionally not criticizing certain aspects of the American system on purpose here.
And not just about Israel, any argument, honestly. Don't hand it to him, I would argue.
Yeah, I try not to because it's a dangerous path to go down. These goofy fascists, the raw egg nationalists, this portion of the film, they talk about a lot of weird things that I had heard about before, but never looked too deeply into. And I think a lot of the source of the widestream, I feel like you've probably remembered the ball tanning discussion in the past. It probably originated like in the mainstream from this episode, from this series. That was one of the things that's talked about in this episode. Almost at the top is ball tanning. Do you remember that stuff?
Yeah, I do a bit, and I will say I am very upset, frankly, that this documentary, this Tucker Carlson original, didn't have the courage of its convictions to show balls.
The balls. Yeah.
You gotta show the balls. You gotta show me dick. You gotta show me balls. You gotta show hole. If you're not doing that, I don't believe that you truly stand by your work.
And what it did show actually was also very, I think, notable. It showed Giga Chad physique bodybuilder with like epic lighting, triumphant music in front of like a red light machine. It was very intentional imagery, I think, that what they did show us. You know, I would have preferred the balls too. But we saw very explicit, like, fascist imagery, I think.
I agree. And I also found it kind of interesting because, again, they hit this thing, testosterone. Mm-hmm. They cannot stop talking about it. But it's so very clear that a lot of these people just have bodies that have come about as a result of steroids, which are actually very bad for your testosterone.
Yeah.
And at least can be in the long term if abused regularly.
Yeah, I don't know the specifics around it, but I do know there is a safe level of doing it, which is not always what a lot of bodybuilders will do.
Right. And so it's also this thing of, oh, you are clearly, and this kind of reminds me also of the ongoing looks maxing shit that's going on right now with guys related. Like Clavicular, right? Where the amount of steroids that they are consuming are ultimately going to be pretty fucking bad for their T levels.
Yeah.
But they don't really, the whole thing about testosterone for them too is that they don't understand it for what it really is, which is one of many chemicals that regulate your body in different ways through the very complex thing known as the endocrine system, right?
Yeah.
They just think that it is the masculinity, like it is the thing that makes you a man. And so the more of it there is in your body, the more of a man you are.
Yeah. I feel like some of these people would be shocked to hear that women also have testosterone.
Yes.
Like they would not believe that, actually. They just straight up would not. But no, you're 100% right. A lot of this, the thing is a lot of this is not necessarily about testosterone and sperm. It kind of is, but it really always isn't.
You know what it's about? It's about their relationship with their own masculinity and the fact that they themselves are very, very anxious about it.
Yeah, I mean, there was a couple of people. I'm blanking on the guy's name, not the coach, but there was like another guy that seemed to be like some health and fitness instructor, some like personal trainer.
The guy who got all the plastic surgery?
Yeah.
The guy with the weird ass face, which again, I'm like, okay, clearly you have sort of a complicated, fractious relationship with your own body.
Which is fair.
Which is fine.
Does.
We all
Everyone
do.
does,
But like, it's so clear what's going on here that you've sublimated your own anxiety and you've made it everybody else's problem.
You have supplemented that with an ideology here that leads down some really fucking crazy paths when implemented in society, you know? But what ball tanning essentially is, which I didn't realize this until doing some...
Back on the topic of ball tanning. Okay, very good. Let's go on.
Ball tanning, I got to just talk about it a little bit because I didn't know what ball tanning specifically was. I've heard jokes about it, but I didn't know what it was. I didn't realize it was just using red light therapy on your ball sack.
Okay.
That's what it is. I don't know if you know anything about red light therapy, but it's sort of like this new thing in like the tech guy world, like the type of person who's like pretty well off, very, very like health minded in like the Brian Johnson way. They're sort of obsessed with red light therapy.
I mean, normally what I've seen is it's just in the context of beauty where it's like it's a mask.
Yeah.
You put the fucking mask on and red light shines on your face.
And it's like the reason for that is like it can increase production of collagen, improve like skin elasticity. It can promote like cell growth and like increase blood flow, just stuff like that. You know, just like general like decent things. And the important word there is it can do these things. It's not like if you do red light therapy, you will become like the beacon of beauty and health. It's like a low level thing. It's like a thing you can do. It might improve your quality of life a little bit. It probably will. But basically what they're doing with ball tanning is they're doing this on their balls to, there's not a lot of science around this. This is mostly the bro scientists saying this for the record. But they're saying if you do red light therapy on your balls, it will do cell regeneration in your balls, which is how new testosterone and sperm growth is stimulated. So again, not really proven at all, but that's the theory around it.
I don't think that's true.
I also don't think that's true.
I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm not a biologist. I don't think that's true.
I also don't think it's true. And if it is true, it's to such an insignificant degree that it is not notable. It is not a notable improvement. It's just something these people are do because they're insane. So that's ball tanning. That gets a weirdly long segment in this episode of a Tucker Carlson original.
Yeah, I think probably because they knew that it would be like viral if they did it.
Yeah, but he in this episode, he even says that, like, oh, these liberals, they don't even understand.
But there's not a lot of meat on that bone is the thing.
Yeah.
That was weird. It was kind of goofy, but like I found that piece of it kind of boring, honestly.
It was just eye-grabbing. It gets attention.
Right.
You hear Tucker Carlson does a segment about ball tanning, and it's like, wow. And like rightfully so, you're like, wow, that's insane.
One of the best ways that you can potentially do this is by tanning your balls.
Maybe not. Not really.
But why would you want to tan your balls?
No, I love Tucker Carlson's like speech.
Oh, it's so fucking annoying.
Yeah, the way he goes like, they actually don't want you to know about this. Actually, have you thought about this? What about this? Like he does like that sort of like very condescending, like, oh, actually.
That's the thing that gets me about Tucker, actually, is it so clear that he just has nothing but disdain for his audience.
Yeah.
He thinks, correctly, I will add, that his audience is just a whole bunch of uncultured, gullible swine.
Yes, and they are. They kind of are en masse. Yeah, they are. And they'll eat up anything. I mean, again, the reason I actually found this episode, this little documentary, very notable is this is probably the starting point to a lot of the widespread acceptance of the Maha movement in the right wing that we see today. This was probably a big jumping off point for a lot of people.
Yeah. Oh, that's upsetting to think about, but you're probably right.
This is like a very load-bearing episode of a Tucker Carlson original is what I've put together. This was 2022.
I know, and I don't know how many... I'd be very curious. We will never know, obviously, but I'd be very curious how many people watched this documentary, this Tucker Carlson original, in 2022.
All I know is Tucker Carlson in this era was the most popular guy on TV of all time. He was the guy. Everyone watched him.
Yeah, they only got rid of him because keeping him around would have been such a significant financial liability for them. Were it not for that, he absolutely would still be around.
Oh, for sure. They were probably so mad that they had to let him go. And of course, he does his own thing now. He does his Tucker Carlson show or whatever. And he's doing fine, probably. I don't know. He probably gets paid a hefty amount of donations from a lot of the people in the government right now.
He's getting a lot of money. That's not a question.
No. Another thing from our good friend Raw Egg Nationalist, he talked about his obsession with raw eggs and the consumption of raw eggs, which I've heard about before. I've known about Raw Egg Nationalist as early as 2020. I've known about this dude for a while. I just didn't really realize how sort of mainstream of a figure in the right-wing spaces he was. And an interesting thing about him is they blurred out his face. They also did that for another person. He introduces himself as an anon, a right-wing anon bodybuilder, political guy. And it's that's odd. That's an odd thing to do. What sort of authority is introducing themselves anonymously? That's crazy.
That's absolutely crazy. I can understand needing to be anonymous if you're whistleblowing on something or whatever, but it's come on, man. You want me to take you seriously and you are introducing yourself as, well, my name is Raw Egg Nationalist and I'm an anon. Shut the fuck up. You don't have even the courage of your convictions to show your own face. There's really no other way to put this. For a documentary, a Tucker Carlson original, with so many people who are so obsessed with masculinity and being manly men. These men are such fucking pussies. I'm sorry, but they're little pussy ass bitches. And I'm so unimpressed with them.
Yeah, no, and especially in this segment, like I said, he was not the only one to have his face blurred out, to introduce himself pseudonymously through his Twitter, to not really have those convictions. At least RFK Jr. sat down in an interview with his face there. At least he had that level of okay, sure, this guy probably generally believes the things he says. These people, you really can't say the same about. And just a note, real quick note on raw egg consumption is that it is generally unsafe to eat unpasteurized. Of course, everyone knows this.
Yeah, you don't want to get salmonella.
Everyone knows this is obvious. But if you do, in this people's sphere, it's technically a superfood. He talks about how bodybuilders in the past used to, there was one guy in particular, I'm blanking on the name, it's not important, used to use raw eggs as a replacement for steroids, which I don't really believe. I don't really believe that at all.
But one of the things that I found so irritating about this is okay, but why do they have to be raw?
Yeah.
Why do they have to be raw? This is the fetishization of the raw thing specifically. Whether you're talking about raw eggs, raw milk, raw whatever, raw meat. It shows to me that this is mostly an aesthetic.
It is, yeah.
As opposed to an actual commitment to a particular strategy, because you could just as easily you could do what I did this morning, which is fry up 4 eggs and eat them. And put a little bit of salt and pepper on them and they're delicious,
Eggs are wonderful. Yeah. No, it's basically my takeaway is just, if you want a superfood, just eat an avocado or blueberries or anything else
or
that
acai.
Acai. Oh, acai is great. Kale, wonderful. There's so much good stuff. And it's raw eggs is just a goofy one.
That's the thing too.
You're totally right. It's an aesthetic.
If you're vegan, or vegan or vegetarian, there are lots of other good alternatives, all of which you mentioned, Get your protein. Get your damn superfoods, folks.
There's a way to eat as healthy as apparently this guy does in ways that are not going to give you salmonella.
But also, didn't they say at one point that eating a plant-based diet is feminizing somehow.
Soy, yeah.
No,
Oh
they didn't
my
just say it was
God.
soy. They said it was feminizing.
Right. You're totally right. I meant to bring this up at the top. Tucker Carlson sort of frames this entire thing about like the man boob. He sort of is like, men have become feminized. Men are not masculine anymore. Look at the man boob. It's a sign of cultural and masculine decline. Yeah, absolutely. And he talks about like the diet that people eat these days, sort of. And actually, yeah, it talks about veganism, sort of talks about like, I think in that segment he shows even some like headline about being trans, like everything. Oh, we're out of nature now. We're so out of nature. Everything is out of nature in today's world. But they show someone doing an ice bath.
Yeah,
like,
for like a minute.
Yeah, I was surprised they didn't talk about that more because that's sort of also become like a big thing in these guys' circles in the like weird aesthetic right wing sphere. Again, like most things we've talked about, it probably can help with things like inflammation or like
there's a reason pro athletes do it all the time, which is that their muscles are constantly inflamed because of how much rigorous physical activity they do.
Yeah, and it's like it probably is fine. It's like good. But again, I think it was very important that you brought up that it's aesthetic because looking at the raw nationalist, he sort of is like, hey, look at me. I talk about how good my life regimen is and I'm very healthy and I talk about raw eggs and also about how the globalist plot is here to suppress you and take you out. And they're doing this to you. It's like it's that aesthetic with the agenda underlying it. Yeah. And finally, you know, we've talked about this a lot in the RFK Jr. episode we did like half a year ago. So listen to that if you want to. But they also talk about beef tallow, seed oils. We don't need to retread that. But again, just in summary, studies do show that beef tallow is far more likely to cause heart conditions compared to seed oils. And seed oils, like I said before, unless you're frying all the time, like frying with oils, really not that bad. Seed oils are fine. They're good. They're not bad.
Right. And big difference, by the way, between frying in oil and deep frying. I just want to point that out as well.
But like, you know, the underlying through line here is that a lot of this stuff is like either based in truth or like kind of true. Like, you know, it's good to work out. That's true. It's good to like not consume as many foods that are like in plastics. You know, that's generally a good thing. We should probably reduce plastics. It's probably good to eat superfoods. Like, yeah, all of these things are based in truths. But that's not necessarily the point that a lot of these people like raw egg nationalists are here in this documentary for. They're here to filter through their fascistic politics underlying these basic health and fitness things. Because there was one point in this, I believe raw egg nationalist said this, where it's like, oh, it's just to be fit and to be a man these days, you have to be a fascist. It's like so fascist coded. You get called a fascist for these things. And it's like, well, no, not inherently. If you are someone like raw egg nationalist, you are a fascist.
You're going to get called a fascist by virtue of the fact that you're a fascist. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was so weird. The moment where in the movie, the documentary, the Tucker Carlson original was tacitly endorsing this thing by then cutting between different examples of like triggered woke libs or whatever. Yeah. And it's such a dishonest framing. And I think that Tucker Carlson knows that it's dishonest, which is one of the things that makes it so much more frustrating than some of the other things we've talked about on this show that are made by the true believers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's why I don't know how effective he is these days, but at one point at his peak of popularity, he was an incredibly effective propagandist for this reason. I would have to do a timeline, but I really genuinely do think this is where a lot of the like sort of widespread belief in these things as like a replacement for general healthcare or like trusting health professionals sort of came from. Mike Cernovich, actually, we didn't mention him, but he was briefly...
Oh my God, when Cernovich showed up.
He was in this,
baby.
One of the longest running known frauds in the right-wing circles.
And also just like such a terrible example of strong, confident masculinity.
Yeah.
Like that's the other thing that I just couldn't get over. I know I kind of said this before, but it's not just that they're anxious about their masculinity. It's that they have such a fragile understanding of their own masculinity. Like anything at any given moment could potentially puncture their balloon, and you can tell how afraid they are about, being called out for that or being called gay, right? Because that's the other thing that I certainly found was throughout all of this thing where there were all of these guys who were just, hanging out together and mostly not
With
wearing very many clothes. It's this is such an elaborate setup if you just want to suck a guy's dick. Like, you can just go and suck a guy's dick. The police can't stop you.
It's fine. It's fine.
It's fine. And it's chill and it's good, actually. And you should go do it. You're going to have fun. But then, as sort of the back, 5 minutes of the movie, we have just this parade of guys being like, and it's not gay, by the way.
yeah.
And it was classic, lady doth protest too much type shit. Because if you aren't worried about being called gay, you aren't going to include an entire segment of this thing where you talk about how you're definitely not gay.
But again, I think that's intentional because I feel like that's sort of like their way to be like, see that these people, these liberals, these people are trying to other you. They're trying to make you feel like outside of society. That's why you have to join our circles and also put on the Nazi band.
So if men want to stay male, they must be fascists and also gay. That's what the media tells you. If you care about your health, if you want to stay fit, you must be a right-wing extremist because good people are fat and passive.
This is a slur that is used to prevent healthy forms of male association, so that even basic friendship is now suspect. Masculinity, as a result, has retreated into pathetic spaces like the man cave.
So if you're a man and you want to get together to do anything other than watch a sports game and get intoxicated and eat wings with women with boobs hanging out, then you can do that. I call it bacon and boobies masculinity.
And also, take your shirt off and maybe take your pants off and maybe get your balls out every once in a while. And
tan those. And I'll help you set up the red light.
I'll help you and I'll be looking respectfully, but I'm not gay. And I'm not, to be clear too, I'm not even saying that all of these guys are gay.
I don't think they are.
I don't think they are either. But what I am saying is that if you have a similarly uncomfortable relationship with your own sexuality to that which you have with your gender, being in a space like this is a great opportunity to express those aspects of yourself in a way that doesn't require you to actually confront it directly. Does that make sense?
100%. Yeah. It's sort of the thing we see a lot where people will take a personal insecurity they have within the world and take that, project it upon other people, and that's their entire ideology. Yes. It's their entire personality. We see this in TERF circles all the time where they talk about oh, you'll never be a woman, you'll never pass for trans people, and it's well, what do you mean by that? That's just misogyny based line, because what if a woman is not idealistically pretty by beauty standards? What if a woman is sort of clocky? Like a lot of women don't look pass. They don't pass in the way that they talk about. There are a lot of cis
women who don't pass. There are a lot of TERFs who don't pass. And then the question becomes, is so much of this just down to discomfort with your own femininity?
And I do think it's that a lot of the cases. Yeah. And so that's a thing we see all the time in a lot of reactionary circles, primarily reactionary circles. You're completely right to point that out here. And I think, I think that is a factor here. But I do think from people like Tucker Carlson, from people, maybe not from RFK Jr., but he acts as an unknowing pawn in this.
The Trump cabinet is just useful idiots all the way down.
Yeah, if they're not useful idiots, they are knowing participants trying to do what I guess it's a real thing, but I guess what I'm calling the masculinity fascism. Mm-hmm. This sort of reorienting away from the liberal feminist world to the strong man, the strong masculine, high T, high sperm count man that's also unafraid to call it how it is and bomb places unapologetically, right? That's sort of like what we're seeing play out right now.
Unafraid to go along with the leader unquestioningly, right?
Yeah, that literally though. They sort of say those things all the time, and it's sort of subservience. It's subservient, yeah.
Having questions, doubts, discomfort, that's woke and soy, actually, right?
Yeah. I mean, I guess it makes sense that these people will be willing to do this when they're convinced by people like nationalists that they are subservient unknowingly in some grand soy globalist plot. Of course, they'll be like, oh, it's time to just like turn around to be subservient to this masculinity fascist plot. Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
Because the fascist mind, all that it can understand is structures of strict linear order. The possibility of like mutual cooperation in differing spheres is not just unimaginable, but literally impossible in the fascist imagination. And so naturally, the way to fight back is to say, if you were enthralled to them, that would suck. You too would be woke and soy. Be enthralled to us, you're going to get to be based epic Giga Chad and eat raw eggs.
Yeah.
And also you can suck your bro's dick every once in a while if that's something you're into, you know? Yeah. Maybe you could suck my dick sometime, like if you wanted to. I'm not saying that you have to. I'm just saying that you
the
could.
Option is there.
It would be chill. We're all guys.
What if it increases sperm count? What if doing that?
Does sucking dick increase sperm count?
In 2 years, we'll see that documentary.
The way that I get my protein intake is by eating raw eggs and also taking my boy's load.
Real science confirmed here. I have a biology degree. I can confirm this. Yeah. You kind of see the reason why, something I think about all the time, the reason they're so opposed to trans people, and I mean they, like these fascists, these masculinity fascists, is because if you transition, it sort of breaks down the binary of gendered thinking. It breaks down sort of like the perception of a world where you have to be uber masculine, giga chad, or like whatever the corollary to that is. It's sort of when you sort of exist outside of that traditional gender world, I guess that's traditional binary, you sort of see the world for what it is, and it's a very intentional agenda, a very intentional far right ideology. At play here.
It makes me think again about the letter that we got in the world famous Mailbag a while back from that listener who, I don't remember the exact details, but I think it was like a T for T relationship, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, the trad wife, T for T.
The trad husband, right? Or whatever it was, right? Where it's like, I am now a man who gets to cook and clean around the home, and my trans wife is the one who gets to go out there and, you know, it's funny because just the way that it breaks the linearity of this thinking, it's like, if the world can be open to you to do whatever it is that you really want to do in affiliation with whoever you want to do it with, is that not far more liberating than this?
I think it is. I think it is too. Far more freeing, less stressful world to live in if you can live without worrying about your relation to, or not even relation, to the way that you are perceived by other people.
Sure.
And a lot of trans people, you know, again, it's hard to, because a lot of people are demonized. Trans people are demonized. But if you live without the sort of constant perception in this sort of traditional gender role world, it's very liberating. Yeah. I think one last final main point is that this documentary very intentionally tries to...
Sorry, did you say documentary? This is a Tucker Carlson original.
Sorry, Tucker Carlson original. This Tucker Carlson original very intentionally tries to conflate being a man and working out and being fit and fitness with fascism, which is of course not true. You can work out. Josh, you're working out. Well, not right now, but you've started working out recently, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and I've become 20% more fascist as a result.
Yeah. And I started working out again recently, and I also have. Yeah,
it's great. Look forward to a year from now when we are going to be a fascist podcast. Yeah,
we will have the ill-conceived original series on Fox Nation.
That's right.
Yeah.
No, but that's exactly what it is, right? is they want to have the monopoly over the very idea of being physically fit.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because fascist societies throughout history have always equated those two things. That the fittest, and again, this comes back to natalism, this comes back to these ideas that we keep talking about. The fittest ones are going to be the ones who are the healthiest, who are the ones who most resemble the imagined ideal of what a person sort of ought to look like. That ideal obviously is going to depend on the culture that you're talking about and sort of the desired physical characteristics. But it does come down mostly to physical strength, to traditional masculinity, and the idea that, like, yeah, the best of us are the ones who most closely comport with the standard. Everybody else is more or less discardable.
We can see that with people's preferred, like nationalists, their preferred ideology here is like you can trace the origins to, and what you're talking about here is the Nazi Germany eugenics program,
yes.
Or even like the way that Italy talked about the strong virile man, right? Like there is through lines through fascist agendas.
Same thing in Imperial Japan. It was the exact same fucking way. Yeah,
exactly. The far right thrive in alienation. The further they can alienate men or whoever away from other men, from other people, from women, from whoever, the greater sex,
and from themselves,
and from themselves. Very good point. It's how they get these people caught up in these ideologies. If they alienate themselves from the world into a movement like this, that is what that's their success. That is what Tucker Carlson is attempting to do. I do want to do a full episode about, like, eventually maybe on masculinity fascism in the current administration, just because I feel like it's sort of, I in our original piece that we published before we started this show, Ill Conceived, I felt like the way that the rhetoric was in Donald Trump's, at the start of Donald Trump's first or second term, he sort of talked about a lot of things that were like reorienting the world into a masculine, like very hyper masculine rhetoric. And, you know, we've seen so much stuff like that with the Department of War. That's very intentional, like new framing to imply strength, strong men. Like the speech he gave in front of the generals. I don't know if you watched that at the time, but that speech he gave, he was like, we're not going back to when we were weak. We were pudgy when we were this, that. It's like, it's throughout the current administration, this sort of like rhetoric of masculinity fascism.
But obviously the paradoxical thing is that in terms of our global standing, this is as weak as the United States has been since the World War II realignment.
And I totally agree with you, but I actually do think these people are delusional enough to think that this air quote strength that they are imposing upon the world right now is a good thing. And it's not. There is a reason, you know, I'm not a fan of capitalism, but the one thing that capitalism sort of was not incorrect about is that, like, peace trading is generally, like, it generally makes different countries look upon each other much more favorably and get along a lot easier if you just have like sort of a peacetime trade with a lot of other nations. That's just sort of
true. Yeah, it turns out that mutual cooperation is a better way to grow than just fighting each other all the time.
That is way more likely to happen under a world where the workers can get the means of production.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Don't fall for this shit. You can exercise and be fucking woke. You can do whatever. Don't fall for this shit. I don't think anyone listening to this show has, but just like be wary when you see these people talk like this. When they talk about they are doing this to you narrative, be very wary. All right. I think, Josh, do you have anything to, I don't know, wrap up? Any final thoughts here?
Yeah, I'm actually working on a new theory, if you're ready for this one.
Tell me about it, yeah.
So if what their argument is that exercising makes you a fascist, my argument is going to be that not exercising makes you a fascist.
No, I think that would be a good way to turn this around. Yeah.
This is what we're gonna do. There are no problems with this idea at all, which is that if you don't go to the gym, you are a Nazi. That's where I'm landing on this one.
Get your 10,000 steps a day.
That's
and
right.
Put in that nose ring. You better get ready, folks.
You better
get ready, folks. Get the hair dye ready. Do one set of curls, your hair is blue now.
And if you don't do it, oh, buddy, look out. I'm coming for you.
All right, see you next time.
Bye.